Hey, this is Jim Chapman, and I'm joined today by James Adam McCants, and we're going to do something a little different today. We are just going to talk like we do in James's office. We found it so interesting that we thought y'all would find it interesting too. Believe it or not, it's a pretty fun time, wouldn't you say, James?
I would absolutely agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so I watch him work, and I sit in there and I just talk for hours, and then when we're done, we're like, man, we should have recorded that.
Absolutely, and sometimes we're like, thank God that was not recorded.
I would say that's at least
just throwing that out
the
there.
time. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the stuff we would record
Absolutely.
Today, and James had a pretty good idea. He came to me and he said, you know, we ought to do kind of a wrap up of 2020, just talk about it, put it behind us in a way. And just talk about all the interesting things that have been going on, you know, locally, in the world. You would be amazed, you, the audience, at how interesting two bald-headed guys can be, right, James?
Yes, indeed.
So we were bouncing around a name for this thing, and we're like, you know, we could just call it Two Bald Guys. Because
It's incredibly accurate.
It's very accurate. No one would be fooled by that title. That's for sure.
No fluff here.
No, indeed. So interestingly enough, I was talking to James about this earlier, and we were talking about Mike Tyson. Well, I'm just going to talk about this because I found it interesting that I was watching. He has a podcast called Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. And it's him and a guy that used to play football for the Jaguars, some big old monster, man. He's like 6'6", I don't know, 300 pounds, just solid muscle. But he's pretty interesting, this guy. And him and Mike Tyson hooked up somehow. They did a podcast, and they had Little Boozy on there. Now, normally that wouldn't interest me. I'm
Sure.
not a boozy guy, but he's from Baton Rouge. And so I was like, let me see what Boozy's been up to. So I clicked on it for a minute because I find Mike Tyson to be an interesting individual in that he, you know, everybody knows his history, had a rough upbringing, got into boxing. Cus D'Amato pretty much mentored him. When Cus was alive, Tyson was a monster in a good way. Boxing world, you got to be. And he became, you know, the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Of course, Cus dies, and what happens? Falls apart.
Yeah, kind of derailed, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, he went from basically someone who had all the potential in the world with advertising and things like that to nobody wanted to touch him. He ended up in jail for rape, and, you know, lost everything. I mean, he had a lot of money there at one point. Several $100 million, lost everything, and now he's a totally different person. And believe it or not, people would be shocked how smart that guy is. He reads a lot. He says he reads like a book a night, and he's one of these people that retains it, actually gets it. So he said something in this interview, and I found this interesting. He was talking to Boozy, and it was almost like an intervention. Mm-hmm. He's telling Little Boozy, you know, basically, I've been where you've been, you're making a mistake, all this kind of stuff. And he says, he was talking about his marriages. He'd been married like 3 times, Mike Tyson. And he said, you know, studies show that when you get married, you look for someone that is like your mother if you're a man. Mm-hmm. And he said, Boozy's like, yeah, you know, I had a girlfriend that she would basically take care of me when I was sick. And it reminded me of how my mom did. And it seems like I loved her more than all the other girls.
Had a real strong maternal bond between
he exactly. Sure. And Tyson was saying that's everybody. So he says, he made a good point. He said, the problem is you'll never find someone to love you like your mother does.
Sure. In most cases.
In most cases. And the point that he was making was when you're a wife, you are basically, you're doing everything you can to stay in your husband's life. So you're fighting for your husband constantly. But when you're a mother, you're fighting for your son. And so where it's kind of about you staying in a marriage when you're a wife, when you're a mother, it's about fighting for your son or your daughter or your child, just a different kind of emotion. And I found it interesting. But it takes a smart person to kind of look, it was deep, pretty deep. For sure. Comment by Mr. Tyson.
For sure.
So
you had mentioned something about how in his podcast, he's almost like like as if you're going to a therapist or a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. Now, do you think that is something he's picked up through his knowledge and his reading, or do you think that's something because he has been in that scenario, in that dynamic so much that he recognizes that and uses that in experience in what he's doing, speaking with people? And is it even conscious? Or is he just like, he just happens to have a bunch of people that are dumpster fires that are, guests on his podcast?
I think it's a little bit about, I would say B. I would say what you said second, and that is his experience in being there is kind of what sparks the genius that comes out of it. But I think his understanding of it comes from what he reads. So, you can read all the books you want about something, but if you haven't been through it, it's hard to grasp it.
Sure.
What I like about Tyson and what I like about his podcast is he acknowledges all of that. He acknowledges that he was a horrible, horrible person at one point in his life. And he acknowledges that now all he wants to do is make that right. I've always, for whatever reason, gravitated towards people who admit that they've made mistakes and they're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes in my life. And so every day I feel like, I'm trying to live life as a better person than maybe I used to be. And I wasn't a Tyson, don't get me wrong, but none of us are perfect, man. None of us, none of us are.
That's the thing about it.
Clean is right, but
we're all, we're created as, to use a religious term for it, we're all created as sinners. Nobody walks the straight and narrow at 100% of the time. There's only been one person on earth that's ever done that. But, and it's not even necessarily that. It's the truth aspect for me when someone can come forward and be like, look, when it comes to life, I have screwed the pooch X, Y, Z. This many times, this, that, and the other. It's not even necessarily that they're admitting the wrong that they're doing, because we all know that we do wrong. It's the honesty factor for me that I can admire that in someone. That's automatically, a mark on the board as far as, me liking them or me becoming a closer relationship in whatever capacity it may be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's the total appeal to me, because he was the epitome of just,
vile,
if you want
celebrity yuck.
Yes. And if you want to see someone that was at the top and went completely to the bottom, this was the guy, and you could point to that and say, this is what you don't want to do. Right. I mean, he was the perfect example of that. But I respect the fact that now he lives his life trying to get back and make up for that stuff, and not defending, of course, any of the idiot stuff that he did, as a youngster. But he's 54 years old now, and it seems like he's using his podcast as a platform to educate people on maybe, hey, I made this mistake, don't make it. So I respect that. But that was just something interesting I wanted to bring up. I know we also talked about something that's been in the news lately, and that was there's a new richest man in the world. Talked to you about this on the phone the other day, and of course that is Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Wow, $187.5 billion with a B dollars, James.
That's nuts.
That's nuts. Yeah, and of course, everybody knows that Jeff Bezos, Amazon, was the richest man in the world. He's about 1.5 billion, I think, is the difference between him and Elon. I think he's around 187 billion now. So, you only got 187 billion.
I may have mentioned this to you the other day, and this is something, a fact that was brought to my attention probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I still can't even wrap my head around this, and it still just blows my mind. So 1 million seconds is a little over 7 days, right?
Right.
1 billion seconds is over 31 years.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Really think about that. A person that's a millionaire, that's plenty of money. Is probably, if done right, and they follow all the steps and become a Ramsey head or whatever, then they're probably set for life at $1 million.
No doubt.
But think about the difference between $1 million and $1 billion. And how much does this dude have? 100 what?
187.5.
Don't forget that 0.5. Because you think, 0.5, but that's over 16 years.
Yeah.
In seconds. You know what I'm saying?
500 million. Just the 0.5 is 500 million.
Yeah.
Which is enough for, that's, they say something like $10 million or something is, once you achieve that, you have what they call generational wealth. So you have changed your generational lineage for life. If you're not an idiot with your money. I mean, if you take $10 million and you go gamble it all away, that's different. But if you live a normal life and you pay your house off and you invest a little bit and you do those things, that $10 million will change your kid's life and your kid's life. That's just $10 million.
Yeah.
I did hear, interestingly enough, the guy from who's the guy that owns the Dallas Mavericks?
Oh, geez.
Remember his name?
If you wouldn't have asked me, I could have told you. But yeah,
he's on that TV show.
I'm visualizing the guy right now, but I cannot think for the life of me what his name is.
Well, he put it in the comments, somebody, but he basically said at one time, he was a millionaire when he first started out and many times over, but then he became a billionaire.
Mark Cuban.
Yes. Same time. Mark Cuban. So Mark Cuban, they asked him, what was the difference between being a millionaire and a billionaire? And he said, well, millionaire is nice, but there is absolutely no comparison. He said, I had $100 million at one point, something like that. And when I made my first billion, the difference really was in the power. When you're a millionaire, you have money, you can do pretty much anything you want to do. But when you're a billionaire, you can control things. I don't know what he meant by that, James.
I'm not real sure either.
But yeah, that's, when you think about it, that's really a statement. You can control things. You can't do that with millions, but you can do that with billions. And I think he meant worldwide. You can,
sure.
Jeff Bezos, I mean, he was, at one point he was talking about they have global warming. Some people believe in it, some people don't. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea. But he had said, what I would like to do is shoot a missile into space, let it explode, and basically the cloud from it exploding would help global warming. This is the theory. He was going to hit something with it, whether it be an asteroid or I think he was going to shoot it at the moon or something. I know, it was crazy. Look, when you got $1 billion, why not? Shoot that missile up there, pop the moon a little bit. So he was talking about the cloud from this, whatever it is, nuclear missile or whatever, would actually cool the earth a little bit. And I'm thinking, man, you got a lot of money when you're sitting around and you're like, I think I'm going to shoot a missile at the moon.
So I wonder what could stop him from doing that.
That's a good question. I mean, because the guy that's beating him right now in the money world is Elon Musk, who has SpaceX, which is
right.
In addition to Tesla, his other venture. Mm-hmm. So he nothing stopped him from starting his own. Basically his goal is to go to Mars. Sure. He wants to have about 10 people get on a spaceship and we're going to send you to Mars. And it sounds pretty simple, right? But the problem is it takes like years to get there.
Sure.
You've got to go through some kind of issue that they're trying to solve where there's some gas out there or something. There's a name for it. Somebody will know it on here. But the problem is they can't figure out how to keep you from getting sick off of this gas. The further you leave Earth, the stronger this gas is. So once they apparently master that, they're going to do it. But the problem is these people can never come back. Pretty crazy because it takes like 20 years to get
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like I've heard somewhere between 30 or 40 years, I thought, but it could be 20. I mean,
somewhere around there. And
who knows?
Yeah, so they send them off, and it's not like you can go and, oh, cool.
Hang out for a while.
Coming back. We're going to head on back. I mean, you're talking 40, 50 years later.
Sure, just in transit.
Just in transit. So when you go, you're staying.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So they're going to supposedly pack these people with
lifetime supply of
them. Yeah, here's some seeds. You know, when you get to Mars, put these carrots in the ground, and hopefully it'll grow.
Now, what's the gravitational atmosphere on Mars? Do we really even know that, or is it just all speculation?
I think they kind of know that part of it, and we know what we need to do in order to land and stay there. I think the storms are the problem on Mars. From what I understand, they have a lot of it's like hurricanes 24/7.
So you'd have to send Louisianians there, is what you're saying. You'd have to find qualified Louisianians that want to live on Mars.
Yeah, we'll put up some plywood, no problem. We ain't worried about that. It ain't even coming here.
So along with the seeds and provisions, you also have to supply them with hurricane preparation. Yes. I gotcha.
That's right. So they, from what I understand, it's the storms and the atmosphere is really hectic over there. But they would basically build, like when they got there, almost like an atrium that protects them,
like biodome.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I couldn't imagine. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't go.
I don't think I would either.
I just wouldn't, man.
I mean, there's too many places I haven't been on the Earth.
Yeah,
that I would like to kind of knock off the bucket list first before I start venturing on to other planets.
You go to Alaska before you go to
Might as
Mars.
Well. Yeah, California. I don't know.
There's nothing. I love people too much, and to me that would be a lonely existence. Even though you'd have some people there, it just would be. And they want to send people like couples to where they would procreate and things like that on Mars. I know, man. It's bizarre. It's like, but he definitely has the money to do it.
Sure.
That's the crazy thing. When you've got that kind of money, there is absolutely no limitation to what is possible. And that's one thing I do respect about Elon Musk. I don't agree with his politics all the time, but he is someone that has vision that I could only imagine. Just it's on a whole nother level. I mean, something that fleets through my mind is, oh, that'd be cool. That's where it stops.
Yeah.
This guy actually does it. Electric cars, for example. I would love to have a Tesla. I think that's an amazing automobile. It's, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. You don't have to have gas in it. I mean, what could be better? Unless you're in Louisiana, of course, we rely on the gas and oil industry here. So
you see a handful of Teslas around, don't you?
And
yeah. All of those are 100% electric cars, or are any of them hybridized?
I think they're all electric. I'm almost positive they're all 100% electric. And, the interesting thing is there's not a whole lot of, you go to California, they've got places to plug them in every 5 miles. Mm-hmm. And some of those Teslas will go 300 miles on a tank, which is pretty good. I mean, that's a good distance. That's here to Florida.
Yeah.
And I say on a tank, on a charge.
Sure.
But here, I think there's some places in Baton Rouge you can plug them in. I think downtown they have a couple of charge stations. But I did see one in Denham. I actually saw it at Big Mike's.
Really?
Yes. One day I pulled up and got out. It might have been for BNI, and there was a Tesla parked there, and I took a picture of it for Trevor because, he loves Tesla automobiles. Mm-hmm. But very rare vehicle, not as expensive as you would think. You can get a good, I don't know what they call them, S-Series or whatever Tesla for $40,000, something like that. That's used. Wow. You can't get a new one for that, but a used one. But I mean, what you pay for a fully loaded Suburban, you could probably get a nice Tesla for. You just can't fit nothing in it.
Right.
Don't try to use it like a Suburban, but I mean,
put one of those escargot things on the top and just load it down.
It is a car where when you see it, you know it. It's like, what is that? Is your first thing. And
I've seen one riding around in Greystone a handful of times, I believe.
Might have been that dude that
if I'm not
Big
mistaken.
Mike's. Maybe he's watching. Let us know. Put a picture on the comments.
Absolutely.
So that was interesting. But 2020, let's talk about that a little bit. Crazy year.
It's been different. It was different. It was different.
Still weird.
Yeah.
Even now.
There were definitely some game changers as far as 2020 goes.
You know, and the funny thing is, or not funny, but the strange thing is March 11th, nobody had life was totally different than March 12th when all of a sudden the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
United States, definitely. And they're coming around now where it's, it's still strange, of course. And but the interesting thing and the good thing about living in like Livingston Parish, for example, is sometimes I look at us and we're kind of in a bubble, so to speak, in that I don't see the effect on small towns that you see in big towns with this, like Atlanta or big cities, even New Orleans, although not as extreme because it's the Big Easy. Most people are easy going there. Mm-hmm. But, man, you get to some of these big cities and...
Well, it all boils down to population, man. Yeah. Even though we're at the low end of the totem pole, not only on just about anything, but also on supply and demand. Yeah. So when it proverbially hits the fan, there's not near the fallout on us as there is on, a city that has people on top of people on top of people on top of people. We can always, to some extent, scratch the surface or have some type of reserve, it almost seems like, because we've got space amongst anything, above anything else. We've got space.
Yes.
I've got more junk at my house and I've got more food in my pantry because we have the space for it. But when you're a family of 4 living in New York City and everything you own has to fit within 900 square foot.
Yeah.
That's different.
Very different.
That's way different.
That's a good point too that a lot of people don't think of. I mean, New York, most people have apartments. Doesn't matter how much money you have. It's very, you got to move out to Poconos or something.
That's right.
To have a house. I mean,
or Queens, or you have to live away from where you work and where your community is in order to even see grass, really, other than Central Park.
Yeah.
And when you don't have extra space, and it's not even just like, oh no, we want to live in the city for convenience. Dude, you know what it costs to commute back and forth from New York City, like somewhere in the city, to Long Island, let's say?
No, I'm sure it's ridiculous.
And even that's saying that you have a car. You'd have to have a place to park. There's so many different things that go into just having transportation in a city like New York or a city like California or like Los Angeles in California, or, compared to here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
We've got fuel, maintenance, let's just say you own the car. You got fuel, maintenance, insurance. That's it.
Right.
And you pretty much go and do what you want as you wish.
Yeah.
There it's fuel, maintenance, parking, long-term parking. Yeah, that right there is probably 2-3 times the amount of expense is what we're used to paying for.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. You go in different parts of the country and it's I went to Florida, and I'm sure a lot of people here locally can relate to this. I went we went to Destin and got there. We had a nice little condo there and got the kids settled and everything. And I told Wendy, I said, I'm going to run to the grocery store there and get some groceries because we had a condo there, the oven and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna cook, and didn't want to bring all that down. Just figured we'd get it while we were there. Sure. So they wanted to go to the beach. I said, well, while y'all are doing that, I'm gonna run the grocery store and go ahead and stock up on, because first thing I'm thinking is food. What about food? So I went and I got about what I'd get here for a week, as if I were staying at home. And the bill was about half of what it is here. It blew my mind. Yes. I looked at the receipt and the lady told me $62. And I'm like, wait a minute. I got just about everything I get at home, and I spend I probably average, myself, and doesn't count our little side trips every day, but $150 or so for groceries for 5 people, and then we go during the week and get more bread or more milk or whatever. But it blew my mind. It was like $62 and some change. So I didn't say nothing. I just gave her $62 thinking she couldn't have scanned half of this stuff.
But I'm going to smile, give her my money, take my change, and walk out the door.
Absolutely. It looked like a long receipt to me. So I get to the car, and the whole way back to the room, I'm thinking there's no way that was right. She had to miss the cereal or something. I don't know. So I get back to the room. I start looking at this receipt. Sure enough, lady got everything. The thing is, they have no tax there. There's no tax, and the food is just flat out cheaper. It's just cheaper. A box of cereal here that would cost $5 was $2.50 there.
Really?
Everything was about half. Florida has it figured out in some ways. I don't know how they do that. I think their tourism is so good, that they don't, they just don't have all these extra charges that you have in some other parts of the country, like Louisiana. But they have no tax, no state tax at all. And their groceries are just cheaper for whatever reason. And I'm sure somebody knows why that is, but it was such a savings. I was like, it might be worth it to drive here like once a month and just buy my groceries.
Maybe just buy meat and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I wonder 4 hours away.
I wonder if it's that way across the board. Like if it's that way for dry goods, canned goods, and meat and vegetables, or if it
seemed like it. It seemed like it, because I was kind of walking up and down the aisles, and I noticed when I was buying it, I'm like, wow, man, that bacon's only $1.50. It's $2.50 at home. And I don't know, maybe they just, even from the grocer's standpoint there, they don't have the overhead that they have here. Of course, I'm going to shop at Carter's or somewhere like that, but I did find it interesting. I mean, it was significant difference. Now, they have hotel tax and all that. And, Florida, I mean, home of Disney World.
Sure.
So it's a part of the country that their tourism is just off the charts. And even through COVID, I have a rep that calls on me that's a paint rep. And him and I ride together every now and then. He's based out of Tallahassee. That's where he lives. Mm-hmm. And so we constantly talk about, Florida. And especially with COVID, Florida got really strict initially, and then they totally backed off of it. And now them and Texas are probably the 2 loosest areas as far as restrictions for COVID.
And they're also with the least amount of cases right now.
Crazy, huh?
Funny how that works.
It is. And it's really nuts how that works. But they are. The facts are the facts, and so you see a lot of these businesses that live in other parts of the country, like California. California is going haywire right now. Right. Have been for a long time. I mean, even before COVID, California was haywire in my opinion. But a lot of those big businesses are moving to Texas. Austin, I've heard a lot about specifically.
I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah. Joe Rogan, most popular podcaster in the world, actually now has his podcast based out of Austin, Texas. He moved. Elon Musk is moving. How you like that? The richest man in the world is leaving your state. Man, the people in California, if I was them, I'd be like, what do we got to do to keep you? But it ought to tell you something somewhere along the line. I'm not a California hater. I'm sure it's a beautiful area. I've had some friends that were in a military station in San Diego and places like that say the weather is just unbelievable. It's 70 degrees all year long. Doesn't matter and those parts of it are beautiful, but they're making some mistakes with their business. I mean,
a lot more than just their business, Jim.
Yeah, you're right. They might not even be a part of the United States much longer.
Yeah, I tell you,
watch it.
I don't know, because I've not been there. I've not resided there. And all I'm going off of is what I'm observing from here in the booth, right?
Yeah.
But it looks like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything to do with it. Mm-mm. I'll stay right over here. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the second major Tool, the band Tool's album is called Anima.
Okay.
And it literally, the self track, which is Anima, is a song basically talking about how California is going to eventually just, melt into the ocean with all the nonsense that is going on around there. And this was back in 96, 97. So this is nothing new. This isn't anything that, millennials have brought to the table as far as, California being, but the song, and in fact, even the CD itself is a hologram, and it's a hologram of the United States, and you turn it, California just right
goes
into
right
the
off.
ocean.
Well, it is built on a fault line.
Yeah.
It was never a good idea, was it? Really? I mean, California,
I don't know, man. I don't know. Hey, there's definitely some polarized opinions about that.
Yeah.
You got a band like Tool that's singing about all the craziness that goes on in California and how it needs to be sucked into the ocean. Then you got a band like the Red Hot Chili Peppers that can't sing a song without having something to do with California,
They've had some great ones about California.
Indeed they have. Indeed they have.
Yes, indeed. The Peppers, man, I hadn't thought about them in a long time.
You ought to more often. I listen to them at least on a weekly basis.
Yeah. I like, look, back in the day, they're still a great band.
Yeah.
But, they were a great live band back in the day. From what I understand, before they were ever known. What is it, Anthony Kiedis?
Anthony Kiedis.
Kiedis, yeah. He was well known in California. They were a well known band just there traveling about California.
Sure.
Yeah, before they became world famous. And great band. Yeah. Flea, what you think about Flea?
Oh, dude, he's phenomenal. He owns and operates a jazz school in California that is from like ages 12 to maybe 20, 22, something like that.
Yeah.
And has various different scholarships that he gives to people that can't pay for it. So he operates this jazz music school in Southern California that's apparently is a pretty big deal, apparently a pretty good sized school. I don't know, I can't spit out numbers or anything like that, but that's what he does with his time when he's not recording and he's not touring.
Yeah, that's interesting because you never think, people judge a book by their cover a little bit too much these days, and you would never think Flea would be that.
Michael Balzari is his name.
Really?
Yep. His mom was a professor, and his dad was he was a jazz musician, but he was a symphonic band member. Like
interesting.
They're from New Zealand, maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere like that, and moved here.
Beautiful.
To the United States.
Part of the world.
Yeah. From what I understand.
Yeah. Never
from the
been
pictures
there.
I've seen.
Yeah, the same here. Well, I can tell you my favorite song ever by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication. Love that song. Love that song.
It's pretty good.
You're probably an Under the Bridge guy.
Well, I love me some Under the Bridge, but probably if I had to go out there and say my favorite song by them, it's probably either Parallel Universe or Soul to Squeeze.
Yeah.
There's just something about Soul to Squeeze. It's like been one of my favorite songs.
That's a good song.
I'm not sure. It came out in the summer before my 9th grade year, or maybe it was the summer before my 10th grade year. And it was just, music is one of those funny things that a song can bring up an emotion or a memory or a emotional memory, anytime you hear it.
It can put you back to where you were the first time you ever heard that song.
That's right.
It's interesting. Toby Tomplay, who's he's doing some work with me right now on my intro. That
hopefully
I'm
giving you singing lessons. Oh, okay. Intro.
He's not doing that. There's no hope there, but he is working with me on my intro. And Toby Tomplay is part of a band here locally. They're awesome. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, for anybody out there that's interested, you can go on Facebook and they do a Wind Down Wednesday, where they actually go on and they play live, and you can go on PayPal and it's kind of like having the little hat out where you're playing and people drop $5 in there or whatever. If you feel so inclined, you can do that. But with live bands having so many issues right now with COVID and everything, it's really the only way they can get out and make any money doing what they love to do.
Sure.
But we were talking about music because he was trying to gauge, well, you can't just say you want an intro. You got to give me an idea of what your feeling is on music. And we were talking and I said, man, you pull up my iPhone and it's everything under the sun. I'm very happy that I don't have one form of music that I love more than another. It just depends on my mood, what I want to listen to. One of my favorite songs of all time, period, is Pearl Jam's Black. I love that song because that song talks to me like no other song in the world. If you listen to that song, there's so much emotion in the way that was written and the words to me. I can never get tired of it. Sure. And it's kind of a dark song, but it's to me a song written from a guy's perspective. And it's just, God, I almost get chills thinking about it. It's just a great song to me. And I said, but I mean, I don't know if that would make for the best intro. Might need something a little more upbeat for local leaders. And he's like, yeah, but I like that. And then I can go from that, James, to blues, to Eminem even. I mean, as weird as that is, and some people, I hate Eminem, but I'll tell you what,
that dude's talented.
Unbelievably.
That dude is talented.
So I have an array. There's the point of, and so hopefully he comes up with some good things for me, but a great local band there. His wife can just sing.
The two of them together are just so incredibly talented. You could just sit and listen to them play, which is it. And it's a shame for them, especially with the condition that everything is as far as live venues and even restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
But you could just sit back and listen to them for hours.
Yes.
For hours.
She sang a song on Wine Down Wednesday. I can't remember the name of it the other night, but and she's pregnant and pretty far along. And I mean, she sang this song and I was like, God, that girl can sing.
Yeah.
She's got to be on that intro somewhere.
She's got some pipes.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt.
She was just, and I mean, a cappella, just boom. Because people make requests. I want to hear you sing this or that. And you're a good band when you can just pick up and do it.
Sure.
I remember another one of my favorite songs, and we're getting on a rabbit hole with this, but Guns N' Roses, the song, what was it? When I Look Into Your Eyes.
November Rain?
Yes. Okay, so November Rain's another one that just speaks to me that I can just dive into, full bore and just. But I remember when it first came out, I was at it might have been a daiquiri place or something where they had a live band. Love hearing live bands, and yeah.
Side note, yeah. I was in junior high, but go ahead.
But he was still in a daiquiri bar. No. So we're at this daiquiri place, and there was a live band there, and I asked them. This is when November Rain first came out, and I said, "Play November Rain," and the guy looked at me, and he's like, "That's
no, bro."
Yeah, we don't know I think it was more the guitar part that Slash remember in the video when he comes out of the church and he just gets on it.
That's very much an orchestrated song. That's not a, hey man, let's just sit on the beach here and my buddy's gonna play acoustic guitar. I'm gonna sing right along to November Rain. Enjoy. There's too many pieces. You're talking about the full-on symphonic strings orchestra. You're talking piano. You're talking the flute. Then of course the epic guitar solo. But it really isn't that great of a guitar solo. In fact, Slash has on that album alone, he has guitar solos that put that totally to shame.
Oh yes, yeah. I think it was because he was going out of that church in the video, and the wind was blowing. His hair was blown to the side, and he was just getting on it.
It was rock and roll as can be. Yes. Period.
Yes, loved it, and that's an epic. If you're a Guns N' Roses fan, that's an epic scene from probably a lot of their videos. Of course, they had "Welcome to the Jungle," which that was a big workout song. I used to love to put that on, go in the gym, and just push iron for an hour. Just listen to that one song.
Have you ever heard of Richard Cheese?
No.
He's a lounge style musician that does covers of various songs that are not in the traditional, I'm talking like lounge,
Yeah.
like Perry Como type lounge stuff, right? And he's got a version of Welcome to the Jungle that is just, it's hilarious to hear it. You've never heard of Richard Cheese?
I haven't. I don't think.
Richard Cheese and Lounge Against the Machine is the name of his band. And he does nothing. He's got a version of Baby Got Back, which is like this swing. Yeah. You
Kind of like Weird Al Yankovic, but his style.
It's all in his genre of music, but he just converts all these songs into lounge, like 20s style swing music. Phenomenal.
Interesting.
Phenomenal.
I'm going to have to check that out.
You're going to have to check that out. It's good stuff.
We'll link it, too, to this video so others can check out Mr. Cheese.
Richard Cheese. They used to play clips of it all the time. That's how I was introduced to it on Walton and Johnson back in the 90s.
Yeah.
When this dude first came out, Walton and Johnson just ate him up. They just loved him. They would always play little snippets in between, like coming back from commercial breaks and things like that. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk about some things locally maybe that we saw from 2020, maybe some positive things. And of course, everybody knows all the negative, you know, with the, I just had Big Mike's on local leaders recently. I've got Buddy's Barbecue, Mickey Watson coming on tomorrow. No telling when you're going to listen to this podcast, so just trust me, it's the next one.
Sure.
And he'll be
in chronological order.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily in...
That's right. But he'll be coming on tomorrow, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that, more about his history. And he has an interesting story how he got into the barbecue business. You know, Memphis is home to barbecue, and he spent some time there because his job, and he works for the chemical gas industry, and got transferred there and lived in Memphis for about 6 years. And that's where he kind of mastered his barbecue skills.
Really?
Yeah, he actually competed in Memphis in May, which is the biggest barbecue competition in the country. It's huge. And of course, me working for Farrell Calhoun Paint, they're based out of Memphis. There's guys that go, you know, that's like the Mardi Gras of Memphis. When you could actually do it.
Sure.
This year they canceled it. But he talks, he was actually on a team that was in Memphis in May many times. And so he's got an interesting story. Stay tuned for that. But we have Big Mike on, and of course, all these folks, James. I mean, especially our restaurants and our, you know, people don't think about our live event guys, but our bands and like the Toby Tom plays of the area really, you know, got hit hard.
Sure. I've got a neighbor 2 doors down that I guess it was probably about a year ago or so. He was working for a company that was maybe located out of Thibodeau or something like that. But he's working for this company. He's probably 10, maybe 15 years older than me, but plays music. And decided one day, like, I guess he just had enough. And either his retirement, he had an option to retire. And he hedged all his bets on music, man. And he's like, he was playing in a couple different bands, and I'm going to focus on this band, and I'm going to give it all I've got, and this is what I'm going to do for a living. And then within like 3 months, if that, shut down.
Yeah.
And he's played like 4 or 5 shows since then. Now, they were doing some Facebook virtual shows for a little while, which is kind of cool. Yeah. You know, but it's not
the same.
Speaking from a musician, you know, we were doing, I'm the worship leader at my church, and for 2-3 months there, we were doing Facebook Live broadcast every Sunday morning.
A lot of churches were kind of resorting to that. I don't know if that's the right term, but
it's different.
It is.
Know, playing for a camera is a lot different than playing for an audience. There's definitely, it's almost like a symbiotic relationship. Yeah. It's an environmental relationship whenever there is an audience, may it be, you know,
well, you're picking up the emotion of the room.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And it reciprocates because it goes 2 ways, definitely. And It's definitely different. And that would really suck if that was my job, is playing live music, and that's all I could do right now is just broadcast stuff.
Yeah, it's, and even from the church perspective, I mean, they were broadcasting. A lot of churches weren't congregating in person, so they were doing some things online. At first, it was interesting because maybe you were bringing someone to the church that wouldn't have normally went, and there were a few churches that I had never visited or been to, and I happened to catch their Facebook Live where they were doing their service online, and I was able to kind of, watch and observe and say, oh, I really like, that particular preacher or whatever it was, and regardless of what religion it was, I kind of went, and watched all of them. I mean, just to see, if nothing else, out of sheer curiosity.
That's right.
What is this about? And so from that perspective, maybe it turned someone on to the Lord or something that normally wouldn't have been, and that was good. But it kind of went a little bit longer than everybody anticipated. Well, that was the issue.
From what they were telling us, from the people that were broadcasting the Facebook, and they see all the background and the parametrics and all that. I think that's the word. But anyway, they said that there was like a handful of services toward the beginning where there was over 1,100 people watching. Dude, we've never had 1,100 people in that. Dude, our church couldn't fit 1,100 people.
Right.
We've never had 1,100 people there, there on a Sunday morning before. So there's another thing. It was definitely,
Yeah.
It's funny. You made me think about this earlier. So about this time last year, Tiffany and I were sitting talking about this earlier this week. About this time last year, everything we do is on dates. You know what I'm saying? So like every work order that you write up, the top right-hand corner, which is some of the most important information that you're going to put on there, is the dates, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about, we got to be so careful. I've heard this, heard that. We need to make sure that when you're writing out, instead of writing out for January 2nd, 2020, you write out 1-2-2020. Don't just put 20 on there, because then, not necessarily on a work order, but like official documents and everything like this, somebody could just bump up and put a 17 behind that 20. So it looks like instead of being 2020, it's 2017 or whatever.
Right.
And that's what we were worried about this time last year.
Yes.
Little did we know.
Little did we
what
know.
was coming.
Crazy.
It's like naive or, blindsided, whatever you want to consider it. But like what we were really worried about this time last year, and little did we know what was down the pipe.
And you wonder, will the world ever go back to normal, ever?
As much as I hate to use the term new normal, because let's be honest, dude, nothing is really normal.
Right.
Nothing went back exactly the way it was before the flood of 2016.
True.
Regardless of what you think about it, nothing went back exactly the way it was before Hurricane Katrina. Nothing went back definitely exactly the way it was before 9/11. These things, they come along and this, what do they call that? A disruptor.
Yeah.
It disrupts everything. And the way, just like a snow globe, shakes everything up, but everything eventually settles down, and you can rest assured that every snowflake is a different position than it was before you shook it up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. And I find it interesting that we'll use the mask thing, for example. So that was if you, December or January of 2019, you'd have walked in a store with a mask, everybody would have looked at you like you had three heads. Now it's almost the opposite.
Yeah.
You walk in a store without one and people are looking at you like you got three heads.
If you'd have told me this time last year that I would have sold the amount of face masks that we ended up selling in a total of 2020, I'd have called you an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, or the guy, the sales rep saying, you need to buy a face mask, 2 days before it hit. And you're like, what did you know?
For real.
What did you know? It's funny. Of course, hindsight is 2020. But I was looking back on some stocks that in 2020 performed good relative to the rest of the business world. And it's interesting in that the stock market never really – they took a hit initially. Of course, everything dived. But now it's at record levels. I'm a little concerned about our jobs report that just came back. It makes me a little nervous for the market. So of course you can never time that stuff, but I was looking back at what really drove some stocks that really drove the market more than others. And of course, the obvious is the Zoom, stock. Obviously, if you'd have known that 2 days before COVID, would you be a millionaire? Likely.
Sure.
Another interesting one, though, was DocuSign. I never would have thought DocuSign. Now, it makes all the sense in the world now. Absolutely. Because this keeps you from having to go in an office and sign papers. You can do it all online. But DocuSign is up like 250%. What if you didn't know that on March 10th? Those kind of things. And I'm always late to the party. Trust me, I still don't have Amazon stock. Yeah. I figure it out when it's an insane amount, and I'm like, it's not going to go up anymore. Sure. I'm not going to buy any. And what happens, it goes up again. But it is what it is. I've always been a big believer. If you're going to buy single stocks, buy like Exxon or something that isn't going to go out of business, or we think. Of course,
I don't know if it's up to Biden. He's getting rid of oil. We will be 100% independent.
That's
of
a good point. Yeah.
How
Green New Deal.
Is that? In 2 years, we won't even have a use for oil anymore. Really, bro?
Yeah.
Really?
Tell my lawnmower that.
For real.
It's a quart every month.
Tell your little car chargers that, because you know what charges the car chargers? Earl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. Also, you've got how many cars on the road now that are gas engine cars? I mean, you would basically have to pull all of those
150, 200,000.
Yeah. I mean, it would be 30 years before you could even recycle the cars into the point where everybody had even if you started selling electric cars now and said everybody has to sell electric cars, you can't have a gas engine car. It would still take 30 years to cycle through what's already on the road that's gas. So you have to have gas during that time. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. No. But nothing does.
He knows good and well he can't do that either. But he also knows that there's there's a large enough percentage in the United States who are like, he can do it. Yeah.
He can do it. You can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So yeah, that's certainly changed, and the world's going to be a little different place. I try to keep positive on that, though, in the fact that, I'm not so much worried about like a Biden as a president, as I would be his vice president, who we just talked about, came from California. That's a little bit of more of a concern, or we just totally don't line up politically. But when Obama was president, my life wasn't any worse necessarily or any better. It was just kind of life, and didn't change it for the worse, didn't change it for the better. And so I just hope, maybe that'll be the situation.
Yeah, it wasn't
keep him alive.
Bad times. It wasn't bad times.
Yeah, it wasn't bad times. I don't look at that 8 years or whatever it was as I had a horrible life because a Democrat was president. I don't, it's just life at that point. Didn't affect me one way or the other, to be honest.
About the only thing that really affected me would be health insurance. I think he really screwed the pooch.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, and it did affect me there because I had to pull my wife off, and she had to get her own policy and all this. So that's a good point. Yeah. Health insurance wise, he did screw the pooch on that.
And it really didn't affect everybody. The lower 10th, maybe 20th percentile as far as, I don't even want to use the word value, but what people make economically, the lower 10 to 20%, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then the higher, probably 60 to top 90th percentile, it didn't affect whatsoever. It doesn't really matter to them. Right. It was that I fall in, the 20 to 60 percentage. That's like, dude, I used to be able to afford insurance. Yeah. Now I can't afford insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Yeah, there was a lot to that. That was a mistake, and you know, one of the good things, the only good thing I can say that came out of that I will give Obama full credit for was, of course, he got that killer that flew planes into the World Trade Center, and he made a tough call there to go into that other country, and they weren't even 100% sure he was there. And he made a call, and he said, we're gonna do it. Imagine that now, James. Imagine if there was Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever, Ghislaine, however you say her name. So she was hiding out here. They eventually caught her. But imagine if Britain found out she was there, and they were like, yeah, she's a terrorist. We want to kill her. And they flew into the United States with their special forces in the middle of the night. And they flew down, and they blew up doors, and they went in there, and she wasn't there. And then they never told the United States they were coming. I mean, imagine the repercussions of that. Well, that's essentially what we did, totally justified. But he was not 100% sure. He had some intelligence that he's 80%, he's there.
Sure.
But it was the president's call, and I will give Obama credit that he made that call, and that could have been bad. It ended up good. But that's the only really positive thing I could say.
Well, there's definitely some inconsistencies as far as that comparison goes on a multiple level of reasoning, but more so and mainly being you're talking about the United States and Britain. Like, I'm pretty sure people just barge into any country in the Middle East at any given point in time for whatever.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's like, weapons of mass destruction, we're here. Saddam Hussein, we're here. What did the Russians come for? I think it was something like, other than just Rambo, they were like rocket launchers or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, being as that's the center of creation, I think everybody kind of treats it as a we'll come and go as we please situation.
Yeah.
And we'll war after it if you got a problem.
Yeah, indeed.
Just saying. That just kind of seems like that's the way.
Yeah. So, in the world, one of the things I worry about now is what I don't want to see is I don't want to see interest rates rise. And you'll typically kind of see that. Of course, they've been low for a while, and that's a good thing. But the problem is when your interest rates rise, your investors and your builders kind of slow down on what they're doing because money's not so cheap. And then, of course, the real estate market drives everything, in my opinion.
Something that we've seen a major change from in 2020 that here we go back to that disruptor thing. And I'm wondering what the repercussions in short term and long term are going to be for it. You get all these people that now work from home that used to work with 80, 100, 300 other people in one big, nice building that's a commercial building. And this is where we conduct our business, right?
Yeah.
Well, now all of a sudden, 90% of everyone is at least to some capacity working at home that worked in situations like that in downtown Baton Rouge, that worked in South Baton Rouge. And, I have so many friends that even if they do go into an office or back to work at the office, it's limited times through the week, small amount of people. Like, what's going to happen 6 months from now when companies, when the economy should it start get on the rocks? Should it start kind of, where people are really making decisions?
It's a good question.
$30,000 a month in lease and expenses as far as a building goes that's 10% capacity?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Then what happens to all these buildings that are empty, that are everywhere?
That's a great James, that's a great question. And I was just talking to somebody about that. The commercial market in general, as far as buildings, commercial real estate is way down because everybody's figured out that I don't have to have an office with 6 employees. They can work from their house. I'll pay them a little stipend or whatever. And I can save a ton of money. No insurance, I don't have to have employees reporting in every day at a job. They're at home. So they're a little happier maybe in some cases.
And with exception from what I've talked to people, and this is management, upper management, middle management, by far and large, there were a few bumps here and there. It's like, you're not getting your stuff done. You need to be, and everybody's kind of gotten to this stride where they've got working from home figured out and can juggle it all.
Yeah, that's right. And And so that commercial market is struggling. You know, I just saw the Dillard's clearance store over in Bon Marché Mall area is closing. And some people had put on Facebook, you get some good deals in there. I've only been in there a couple times, but I've went in there and get a shirt every now and then, and you get a $90 shirt for $12. You know, it's like, wow. Well, they're closing. They're closing that store. As a matter of fact, everything's like 20% off of its normally 60% off price.
Right.
So until they just sell out of this stuff, I saw someone had posted on Facebook. So I had went by there actually last week. I was in the area and I'm like, I'm going to go see if I can find a good deal on a sweater. And went in there and I noticed there was very little employees. So I kind of knew something was going on. But here's what blew my mind. It's been so long since I've kind of rode through that area. Almost everything's gone. This is nothing but a bunch of empty. The only thing open over there is Firestone and Dillard's. Yeah. And I was like, man, what are they going to do with all these buildings? It's just empty space.
Well, the big rumor was for a long time, and it may have even progressed past rumor, but maybe the deal is yet to close or didn't even end up happening at all. But that was supposed to become an Amazon distribution center.
I had heard that about a year ago. I think I had heard kind of a rumor about that. And it just goes to show you, it's funny, but look, Dillard's isn't local business. We all know that's big business, but even a company that size, the Amazons of the world are shutting down, and then they're going to buy their building and use it as a distribution center. And Jeff Bezos, who we talked about earlier, of course, second richest man in the world now, was the highest income person in the world, I should say. But the whole point of the matter is, this is what you get when you order everything online. And it's why we push shopping, small business and the sporting centers of the world versus the academies of the world. And that's because, there's a difference. Small business relies on you and I's business, especially in a time like this. What if nobody ate at Big Mike's, and kind of went out of their way to make an effort, even if it was just pickup only? They can't survive like that. They have to lay employees off. They have to, there's a big trickle down effect to all of that.
It's not even trickle down. It almost becomes domino. Yeah. You're not talking about, inklings of here, there, and yonder, and somewhere down the line, it really ends up being a puddle somewhere. No, this is stuff that affects every single thing we do.
Everything we do. And I don't criticize like an Amazon from the aspect of a business model. Obviously the guy did something right. I think where Jeff Bezos really hit the the nail on the head was when he came out with Amazon Prime delivery for free in 2 days.
Yeah.
That changed the game. And if you look back in the past, like 10 years, when he first offered that program, I think it was like you had to be a Prime member. So he got like, I don't know, $100 from you or whatever it was to be a Prime member. Once you were a Prime member, you got basically a year of free shipping and 2 days from them to your house. And it became too convenient for people. It was easy. You didn't have to go in a store. You just go online and that's the shoes and the shoe size I want. And in 2 days, it's sitting at your door looking all pretty. And he became the master of convenience. And I think that's where he really started taking over the world, so to speak, when it came to shopping. That being said, there's some downfalls to that, and that's that your business hurts. Like Dillard's is seeing right now, a huge company. He's chewing them up, spitting them out, just like Sears, just like everybody else.
It's funny you mentioned that name. How much of this is really truly cyclical, and how much of this is something that maybe is going to eventually go by the wayside? But 75 years ago, 80 years ago, most of the stuff that you didn't buy at your local general store, you ordered from Sears and Roebuck, which is basically like the archaic Amazon.
Yes.
I mean, think about it.
Correct.
And I can remember when I was younger, getting the Sears catalog in the mail, it came twice a year or something like that. Mm-hmm. And now it's not even in circulation anymore. Of course, for multiple reasons, internet, the fact that Sears is tanking, so on and so forth. But that was the way to buy things that they didn't have at your local specialty store or your local market, was via Sears and Roebuck.
I remember ordering audio stuff from Crutchfield, back in the day, just when I was growing up. And that's right. Where Jeff Bezos really figured it out was, I can remember back in the day, I didn't want to order online. This is when I was much younger, didn't think about the local business, aspect of things, but I didn't want to order online because I was a creature of, I want it right now. If I think about that I want something, I want to go ahead and get it. Ordering online, you were either going to pay a boatload in shipping. It was going to be basically whatever you were ordering cost to get it to you. And it would take a week and a half unless you paid like $50 shipping to get it to you.
And it was a trust factor deal as well.
Yeah.
20 years ago, when ordering something online, you didn't really know if you were going to get it or not.
That's right.
Or at least you felt like, I don't really know if this could be some kind of scammer. This could be the same dude that's the twice removed, diplomat from Kenya that's looking to transfer money into my bank account. All I have to do is give it to him. Well, now he's trying to sell me a base tube for my car.
Yeah.
And I don't want him having my credit card number.
That's right. That's right. And so when I'm just absolutely convinced that his business changed when he came out with Amazon Prime. That was just a game changer for that guy, because there was not an excuse at that point of, I don't want to have to wait for it. You didn't have to wait for it.
Sure.
No, it wouldn't be like walking in the store and getting it that day, but a couple days, it's at your house. But it's the repercussions behind that you really got to look at. And sometimes, hey, your local, everybody don't have it. It's just something they don't care, or maybe you don't have a particular store locally that supplies that. In that case, you just do what you got to do. But
there's some things that I do order on Amazon, and it's not necessarily because it's the best price for it, and it's not necessarily because I don't want to buy it local. It's that by the time I did the research to find where it would be to buy it locally, I'll probably have forgotten that I even wanted it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be.
I'm not robbing anything from anybody. It's like, I'll just forget about it and won't be buying it from anyone unless I just, go ahead and order it. And that's still few and far between of anything that I order on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. And but I will credit the guy for vision. He had he started at a bookstore, and his big thing was we've got every book you could possibly want, and he was nowhere near a Books A Million or these big bookstores, and a short period of time, man, over 10 years or whatever it's been, and he's just shut everybody down.
Yeah.
You can definitely tie all that back to him, and the only places that don't have to worry about that are like your Home Depots. Places like that where he's just not going to ship a pallet of wood to you and for free yet. Who knows what the future may hold.
But the thing about it is, and I may be speaking way out of line, and I hope I'm not by any means jinxing myself or anything, but it's not. I don't think it's really the smaller stores. You're always going to have room in the market for brick and mortar, period.
Hopefully, yes.
But what Amazon is going to do is put out the large, like the mega stores, the super stores. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Home Depot. Because it's only Amazon already does it to where half the things inside that store that you would walk into Home Depot for and buy, you can buy on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I think that agreed. And I think it's more of the public. The public hasn't come around to, I want to shop for that at like an Amazon. I mean, Home Depot had record profits this year, to the point that they basically sucked up all the supply for everybody else. I mean, gallon cans, for example, of paint, are tough to come by. And a lot of those are getting sucked up by like the Home Depots of the world. I'll give you another good example. I won't use the company name, but there's a company that you can buy their product in Home Depot. And, Farrell Calhoun, for example, we also buy from this company, and we get nothing but back orders now. And the reason we do is they service Home Depot first. Then, because they have a contract with them, then whatever's left that gets dispersed out to everybody else. And, we'll put in an order for 600 cases of something, and we'll get 4 cases in and 594 back ordered.
Yeah.
And it's because Home Depot also ordered a bunch.
But see, I don't think it's a matter of price. I don't think it's a matter of availability. I don't think it's a matter of anything other than customer experience. That's what it's going to boil down to, because Home Depot could care less if you're there or not.
Right.
And I think it honestly is a situation where ownership and upper management could care less if the employee's there.
Right.
So the employee could care less if you're there.
Right.
Because there are numerous times I go in that store and there's a handful of people. I'm not going to just wash it all, paint it all black. But there's a handful of people there that do give a crap that you're there. And then there's a couple other guys that walk around with the attitude with those flags on their their back pocket, to where they shut off a whole aisle so they can move a couple pallets around. You ask, look, I just need to grab that right there. You got to wait on a minute, okay? We're trying to unload stuff right here. It's like, bruh, I need that right there. I just need to grab that. And I'm going to wait here 45 minutes for you to finish moving around pallets and stuff. I mean, really, dude. Or try and find somebody who knows crap about anything there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I'm sure there's some people there that do, but it's different than walking in like a sports center. I walk in sports center. Everybody there knows me. Everybody knows my name. They look happy to see me. I don't know if they,
it's like Cheers.
If they are. Yeah, it's like Cheers. But really, I mean, and I'm sure you're like that with 99% of the people that walk in sports
regulars. Absolutely. We try to make regulars out of everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what you're going to get out of a local business that you will never get out of like a chain. And that is not criticizing chains. It's just, there's a different kind of buy-in there between, a family-owned business and a corporation. There just is.
Disconnection. There's a huge disconnect when you're talking so many rungs of, in a ladder. There's just a disconnect, and that's all there is to it.
Absolutely. And we all want to feel like when we walk in somewhere that someone appreciates our business. I've walked out of businesses in the past because I've walked in and it's almost like I'm bothering them because I'm wanting to spend money with them.
Yeah.
Never really had that experience at a family owned or private business, but I've had it plenty of times at large chains.
Sure.
That were public, companies. And it's not it sort of is a criticism of public companies, but it's just a difference in culture.
Sure.
To me.
And you hit the nail on the head, and it's not like you were bothering them. You were bothering them.
Yeah.
Can't you see
I'm trying to play on my phone
here? And they could care less if you come in there and buy anything. You are bothering them.
Yeah.
I've got to finish this level of Candy Crush before I can go on break.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So, well, this has been fun, man. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not.
I was about to say, let's take a little break so I can get some coffee, but we're not dragging this joker 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we could, but we don't want to give you too much too early.
That's right.
So hopefully to everybody out there, you enjoyed. This is kind of what we do.
Yeah.
when we're not.
This is a
when
glimpse
we're not working.
into the life of Jim and James Adams.
Isn't it interesting? But there's much more to come on that. we've been bouncing around for a while doing a little side podcast to local leaders of the podcast where me and James get together. People seem to enjoy listening to us talk for whatever reason. Believe it or not, I had Black Sheep Creative, which is they kind of handle my Google stuff. He does my website stuff, all that sort of thing. And he told me that our podcast that we did is my top podcast on my website, which is interesting. Yeah, I was like, you got to be kidding, because it's been a long time since we've done one of those on the local leader side. And he said, yeah, man, that gets a lot of play, a lot of clicks. So somebody likes it. It might have been like me and you watching just it the whole day. Yeah, every day. Maybe we're our own two fans.
3 seconds X off. Click 3 seconds X off.
Could be. But for whatever reason, we were kicking around names. We're just going to be two bald guys to all you people out there that are watching us. We're going to have James come up with some characters or something like that.
I'm with that. I'm with that.
Kind of cool. So look for, obviously, local leaders to come out to you soon. My next guest is going to be Buddy's Barbecue. Mickey Watson will be in here next, so look for that soon. Support your local business, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Very important right now, and me and James are going to bring more of these, and we'll talk about just whatever's going on in the world during that time.
And here's to 2021.
Yes, 2021. Who knows what it's going to bring, but it's got to be better than what we've had in the last 6-7 months.
I've learned just don't say things like that.
Yeah, we don't want to jinx ourselves.
You don't ever. It's just like when somebody at work is like, "Oh, can it get any worse?" Shut up.
That's right. Yeah,
shut up.
It can absolutely get worse. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. We will see all of y'all next time. For James Adam McCants, I am Jim Chapman. Wishing you all the best. Have a great evening.